Why did you become a vegetarian, eh?
I hated the abattoirs. I said to my mother when I was 16, like, I don't like the abattoirs, Mum. Why, son? I said, because they commit mass murder. And she'd go, oh, you know, and my friends and that, talking and having lots of good times and that over the months and months, a lot of them turned vegetarian from because I was making a lot of sense about the cruelty and the death that they do talk about now, 50 years later. But I didn't have to see no internet or no, I knew the cruelty that was going on and the actual barbaricness of bringing up a cow and clearing the land. Anything that starts off wrong can never end up right. So if you clear all the land so you can eat meat, it's got to be wrong, But that's the way we were bred up to live, because we were hunters and gatherers. So when we finally decided to stay in one spot, they grew vegetables. The Philippines were the first people to introduce home farming. The rest of them were hunters. So the Philippines were the first ones. But they also, like the Americans, produced places like how the Indians used to hunt buffalo. They brought in all cows, cattle. Well, in Australia, the cattle destroys the earth. And so do the sheep. They bite right back to the roots. They got no grass left. The place turns into trodden. You see, I'll just explain one thing. Coal comes from trees. Now, coal is dug 2 miles. They did 2 miles for coal. Deep. So that means the earth's growing upwards. And why the earth grows upwards is because with all the foliage and all the growth falling down on the ground, gives the ground coverage and mulches it and grows more earth. So the earth is always growing upwards. Even though it's shrinking from the sea, it's growing upwards, so it's staying at a balance, right? But because the cows and all the animals that we've introduced, because the kangaroo was the heaviest toothed animal that was on this ecosystem that we live in Australia. We never had any heavy-toothed animals until they were introduced. Now they've trodden away the earth. And now it don't rain in deserts because it only rains where there's fauna and trees and stuff. That's what the rain's attracted to. So the more the cows destroy the earth, the more they turn it back to no growth, no coverage, no mulch. It's dying. We're killing it. And people saying, oh, the poor farmers, let's help them, bring them hay, so they can fatten the cows up and send them to the abattoirs anyway. It's a joke. They ought to clean it up and remanage it and start growing things, like there's so much talk about how marijuana could be a replacement for paper to cut down trees, toilet paper too, all so many different papers, and you get oxygen from marijuana. Not marijuana, hemp. Marijuana's cannabis is a different, but hemp just grows long and tall and stringy, and there's not much use. But the fibre that they get off it. In World War II, they asked in America the farmers to please start growing your hemp again because they needed it to make ropes and parachutes and that, because there was no other fibre that was strong enough to uphold it. So, I heard even our paper back in the day was made from hemp because it was the strongest paper. Didn't tear real easy. So I don't know how true that is, but they're making clothes today out of hemp, so-called hemp, and so there are products like that instead of sugar cane and all the other things that they mass produce right up to the house. They don't even have vegetables growing around their house. They have sugar cane right up to the bloody doors. They go down the road and buy their groceries. That's the sort of farms that have been created in this country without any organisation or understanding of management of the soil. If they used So half, like for every cow is about an acre. We've got more cows in this country than we have people. So there's about 28 million cows in this country. So people can have a fucking steak for dinner, you know, or whatever, and have meat. Oh, what are we going to do without meat? We can't live. We've got to have meat because it's been bred into our DNA for hundreds of thousands of years. And it's something we have to learn to break to become more human, more sensitive, have more morality, things like that. So we've not only got to change from eating meat, we've got to replace it with things like vegetables and grains and other things like that we can grow and feed the world, mate. If we had 26 million acres that we have for cows, if we had half of 26, if we had 13 million acres of vegetable and whatsy, instead of cotton and all that stuff, we could feed the world over. We just mismanaged. This whole world is mismanaged through the cultured conditioning. We grow up, we're told, oh yeah, cow's milk's good for you. It makes you strong. We're not cows, and milk is a youth food. It's a lie. So we've grown up being taught a lie, and we believe it. And we fight our asses off in society and the people around it that milk is good, and so's cows. We've been doing it for that long. Well, we've got to question what we've been doing, because if we didn't question slavery, if we didn't question homosexuality, you know, back in I seen a show the other day about two homosexuals that were caught as lovers, and they were teachers, and they were called perverts, right? So times have changed because over time the truth will eventually evolve. You know, it should happen now. We should know the truth now. That's my feeling about it. Why wait over time? You know, the truth is now. It's got nothing to do with time. So, but anyway, it does evolve over time, and society does get better in some ways. But there's other ways that we're racing towards too. We're also racing towards destruction through inventing more powerful weapons. You know, we've progressed from the horse and cart to the jet plane, but from the bow and arrow to the bomb. So we've learned to invent and progress without any understanding of and compassion or empathy for the earth and planet that we live on. We should love it and treat it as our home, you know, instead of just using it and turning it into shit. You know, human beings are the only things on this planet that trash the earth. Think about that. If there was no human beings, the earth would fucking flourish. You know? So we've got to use our brains more as human beings. That's what we've been created. That's what, you know. We're at the top of the tree as far as intelligence and what we can do and what we can create. We can create cities and cars and jets and planes and all these wonderful things. But we forget about when we jump the plane, all the shit we leave behind when we're flying off. So we've got to have two ways of doing things. We've got to do things, but on environmental understanding of what we're doing at the same time. You know, so that's what I think about, you know, the environment as far as that. So eating meat is, if cutting down all the trees and putting cows there is wrong, it's never going to end up right. So something that starts off wrong can't end up right. It's me, Johnny. I'm home.